It was 6:47 a.m. on a Saturday in November, and I was sitting in my car in the gym parking lot with the engine running and my hand still on the steering wheel. I'd just finished the workout that completed an 18-month physical optimization I'd engineered from a spreadsheet, the body fat percentage I'd targeted, the lifting numbers I'd calculated, the mobility benchmarks I'd set after reading 4 books on functional training. I hit every number, not approximately, exactly. The spreadsheet was green across every row. And I sat there, engine running, parking lot empty, except for one other car and a shopping cart someone had left tipped against the curb, and felt nothing. I need to be precise about this. Not disappointment, not some existential, is this all there is moment. Nothing. A flat, mechanical, clinically neutral absence of response, like entering the final number into a calculator and watching it display the result without commentary. The number was correct. The calculator didn't care. Then, less than 4 seconds after the nothing, a thought arrived that I didn't choose to think. Okay, what's the next target? Not, I should celebrate. Not, I did it. The optimization engine, the system I'd installed in myself over 4 years of self-improvement books, podcasts, routines, and frameworks, asked for the next input, automatically, the way a program loops back to the prompt after executing a command. I sat in that parking lot for 11 minutes. I know because the engine timer tracks it, and I realized I wasn't having a bad morning. I was having the morning the system was designed to produce. The optimization engine doesn't have a finish line. It has a recalibration function. Every target achieved becomes the new baseline. Every arrival is a departure. And the person who was supposed to enjoy the achievement, the human being underneath the optimization operating system, had been overwritten somewhere around month 14. Nobody sent a notification. Now, this isn't the video where I tell you self-improvement is a scam. I'm not the guy who burned out and now tells everyone the kitchen is too hot. Self-improvement did real things for me. Real, measurable, valuable things. What it also did, what nobody warned me about, what no book includes, is cross a threshold. A specific, identifiable threshold, where the improvement stopped serving me and started consuming me, where the tool became the operating system, where optimizing my life became my life. The dark side isn't the failure stories, it's the success stories. The people who did everything right, hit every metric, and discovered that the person who was supposed to benefit had been quietly replaced by the optimization itself. 3 instruments. The first one diagnoses whether you've crossed the threshold. The second installs the off switch the system never came with. The third reclaims the human territory the system colonized. Here's what happens when an immune system loses its stopping signal. It keeps scanning, keeps identifying, keeps attacking. But now it can't tell threat from host. The knee joint isn't a pathogen, but the immune system, operating with no off switch and a broken boundary, attacks it anyway. The system didn't break, it overperformed. It did its job so thoroughly that it destroyed the body it was supposed to protect. Self-improvement does the same thing to a life, and it follows the same 3-phase progression. Phase 1. Therapeutic. The optimization impulse identifies genuine problems, poor health, wasted time, bad habits, and fixes them. You feel better, measurably better. The tool worked. Phase 2. Asymptomatic drift. The optimization impulse, having solved the original problems, doesn't stop. It can't, because no framework included a definition of enough. Rest starts looking like inefficiency. Unplanned evenings start looking like waste. Relationships that don't serve growth start looking like liabilities. You don't notice the drift because each individual optimization still feels productive. The pathology is invisible at the level of the individual decision. It's only visible at the system level, and you're inside the system. Phase 3. Autoimmune. You can't rest without guilt, can't enjoy without measuring, can't exist in an unstructured moment without the reflexive thought, what am I optimizing right now? Yet, in every human space, the spaces where the person who does the improving actually lives, has been colonized by the optimization language and converted into a metric. The system is running at peak efficiency. The host is being consumed. And the cruelest part? The framework diagnoses the resulting emptiness as "you're not optimizing enough." The treatment is the toxin. And the label never mentioned the dosage. That's optimization drift, not burnout. A systems phenomenon. The predictable consequence of running an open-ended optimization engine with no endpoint and no off switch inside a human life. Okay, 3 instruments. And I need to warn you, you probably won't like what the first one finds. The reason you haven't detected optimization drift in yourself is the same reason autoimmune diseases evade early diagnosis. The symptoms look like the system working, not the system failing. 4 symptoms. Check them honestly. Symptom 1. The guilt response to unstructured rest. Saturday afternoon. Nothing scheduled, body is fine, and the guilt arrives, not as a thought you choose but as a physical response, a tightening across the front of the shoulders, a restlessness in the hands, not the whole body, the hands. They want to pick up the phone, open the laptop, start a task, engage a metric. You've been interpreting that hand restlessness as boredom. It isn't. It's the engine's startup sequence, the autoimmune response firing its first signal to re-engage a system that was momentarily idle. The framework calls this drive. The diagnosis: your system has pathologized the absence of optimization as a threat state. You haven't become more disciplined. Your system lost the ability to distinguish rest from regression. Symptom 2. The metricification of relationships. Have you started sorting friends into high value and low value? Do conversations feel like time investments with implicit ROI calculations running underneath? When was the last time you spent 3 hours with someone and at no point evaluated whether the interaction was productive? The framework calls this being intentional about your circle. The diagnosis: the engine colonized your relational space and is evaluating human bonds through the same input-output framework it uses for habits and skills. If this is making sense to you, if you're recognizing these symptoms for the first time, hit the like button. Not for the algorithm, because it tells me this conversation nobody's having is something people need to hear. Symptom 3. The inability to experience without evaluating. You're at dinner. Good food. Good conversation. And underneath the experience, running like background software you didn't open, a concurrent audit. Is this aligned with my nutrition targets? Is this the optimal use of a Friday evening? The framework calls this mindful living. The diagnosis: you've lost the ability to be somewhere without simultaneously auditing whether being there is optimal. Symptom 4. The recalibration reflex. This is the one that brought me to the parking lot. You hit a goal, a real one, and the emotional response isn't celebration, it's recalibration. The target moves automatically. Body fat was 15%, now the target is 12. Savings hit $10,000, now it's $25,000. Each achievement registers as the new floor. The framework calls this growth mindset. The diagnosis: the engine deleted the concept of enough from your operating system. Not reduced it, deleted it. Count your symptoms. 2 or more means you're not disciplined. You're in phase 2 or 3 of optimization drift. So now you can see the disease. But the engine is still running, and it's going to keep running until you install the one component it was deliberately built without. Where is the endpoint? Open any self-improvement book. Find the chapter where the system says, when you reach this point, you're done. Stop optimizing. Just live. That chapter doesn't exist, not because the author forgot, because the author's business requires that you never stop. A completed reader is a lost customer. A satisfied listener unsubscribes. Every self-improvement system is an open loop, designed to recalibrate the target upward so you remain in a permanent state of not yet enough. It's not a conspiracy, it's an incentive structure, and nobody who sold you the engine profits from including the off switch, the enough threshold protocol. One principle: You define the endpoint before the engine can recalibrate it. Once defined, the threshold doesn't move. And when the engine hits it, the engine shuts down for that domain. Not pauses, shuts down. Step 1. Identify your 3 or 4 active optimization domains. The areas where you track, measure, and push. Physical health, financial metrics, productivity, skill development. Name them. Step 2. Define the enough threshold for each. Specific, measurable, and final. Not the best I can be. A concrete condition that represents sufficiency. Physical. I can run 5 kilometers, lift my body weight. My blood work is healthy. Enough. Maintenance. Financial. 6 months saved, 15% to retirement, no high-interest debt. Enough. What matters is that the thresholds exist. Predefined, written down, non-negotiable. The engine can't recalibrate a target it didn't set. Step 3. The recalibration lockout. A physical document, written, printed, visible, stating each threshold with one line. Defined on this date by the person, not the engine. It does not move. When the engine fires the recalibration reflex, you point to the document. The document was written by the human. The recalibration was generated by the engine. And the human outranks the engine. When even one domain moves to maintenance, something happens. Cognitive and emotional space reopens. The background processing goes quiet. And in that quiet, you'll feel something unfamiliar. The sensation of not optimizing. The engine will interpret this as failure. The human will recognize it as the first breath they've taken in years that wasn't measured. All right, you can see the disease and you've got the off switch. But there's a third problem, and this is the one that wrecked me the hardest. Let me tell you what the optimization engine consumed in my life. Not the dramatic things, the quiet things. It consumed the phone calls with my mother. That used to last an hour and now last 12 minutes because the engine classified them as low ROI time investment. It consumed the novels I used to read for no reason, replaced by nonfiction with highlights and actionable takeaways that I've never once taken away. It consumed Sunday mornings, the ones where I used to make coffee and sit on the floor and do nothing, and replaced them with weekly reviews and planning sessions. It consumed my friendship with a man named David. Not because David was toxic, because David likes to fish. And fishing is 4 hours of sitting in a boat talking about nothing. And the engine categorized 4 hours of nothing as a liability my schedule couldn't absorb. I haven't fished with David in 3 years. My schedule is optimized. My life is emptier by 1 friend and 4 hours of silence on a lake. And the moment I actually understood the engine had crossed the threshold, it wasn't the parking lot. It was 3 weeks before. A Tuesday night. My girlfriend said something I've replayed more than any podcast episode I've ever consumed. She said it quietly, like a weather report. You don't sit with me anymore. You sit near me while you optimize. She was right. I was on the couch, next to her, physically present and systemically absent, phone open to a habit tracker, mind calculating whether I should use the remaining 40 minutes on skill building or sleep optimization. And I could feel the engine trying to categorize her observation. She needs quality time. Schedule a weekly date night. Track it. I caught it. For the first time, I caught the engine converting a human moment into a task. And that was the first time I realized the engine wasn't a tool I was using. It was a tenant that had changed the locks, the human reclamation practice. One rule: 1 hour per day is engine off. Not recovery time. Not strategic rest, engine off, no metric, no measurement, no evaluation of whether the hour was well spent. The hour is not spent, it is lived. The daily action: choose one thing with 0 optimizable value. Call the friend the engine classified as non-essential. Cook something slow for no nutritional reason. Read 30 pages of a novel that teaches you nothing. Walk without a destination and without a podcast filling the silence. And when the guilt fires, 6 to 10 minutes in, like clockwork, recognize it for what it is: an autoimmune response attacking healthy tissue. the structural protection. Remove the measurement infrastructure. If the engine off hour is a walk, leave the phone at home. Not because you're doing a digital detox, that's an optimization, but because the phone is the engine's sensory organ. If it's cooking, don't track the macros. If it's reading, don't take notes. Think about sourdough. A starter is a living culture that, when fed, produces extraordinary bread, but the starter doesn't know it's making bread. The starter is just consuming. If the baker doesn't remove the starter at the right moment, it consumes all the flour, all the water, and produces an over-fermented slurry. 100% metabolic activity, 0% bread. The starter didn't malfunction. The baker's job was to know when to stop the ferment. Your optimization engine is the starter. Your life is the dough, and nobody ever told you when to remove the starter. The enough threshold is the moment you remove it. The human reclamation practice is the moment the dough becomes bread. Now step back. You entered self-improvement because something needed fixing, and it fixed it. The tools worked. That's the light side. The dark side is what happened after, when the engine didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because nobody built the off switch, and nobody told you that a tool used past its therapeutic window becomes a toxin. You were never broken for feeling empty after achieving everything. You were consumed by the system that built the achievement. And the recovery isn't another optimization. It's discovering that the person underneath, the one who used to fish with David and read novels and sit on the floor doing nothing, is still there. Quieter, but still there. I'm not giving you a 30-day protocol. I'm not giving you a tracking sheet. I'm giving you something no self-improvement framework will ever give you because it's the one thing that ends the subscription. Permission. Permission to stop. For 1 hour. Today. Here's your first unoptimized hour. As close to right now as your schedule allows. Put down every device that tracks or measures. Call whoever your David is. Open the novel you abandoned. Sit on the floor with your coffee and look at the wall. There is no correct way to spend this hour because correct is an engine word. And when the guilt fires, recognize it for what it is. Not your conscience. Your system attacking healthy tissue. Let it sit in your chest like a guest who wasn't invited. It will leave. And what's underneath? The quiet. The unstructured space the engine convinced you was the enemy is the place where you actually live. You built the engine because something needed building. And it built well. The discipline was real. The growth was real. That was you, the human. But the engine doesn't know what you know. It doesn't know the fishing trip with David was worth more than the 4 hours it replaced. It doesn't know the novel at 11 p.m. was worth more than the sleep score it compromised. It doesn't know the call with your mother that runs 20 minutes past efficient is the reason the efficiency matters at all. The engine measures everything and understands nothing. 1 hour. Engine off. Because you are more than the system that improves you. And the proof is simple. The system has no idea what you lost when you stopped fishing with David. But you do. You remember. And the fact that you remember means the human is still running underneath. Go find David. Or the floor. Or the novel. Or the bench where you used to sit and watch people walk by. The engine will be here when you get back. But for 1 hour, one unmeasured, unoptimized, gloriously unproductive hour, let the human drive. The dark side of self-improvement isn't that the system fails. It's that the system succeeds so completely that it replaces the person who turned it on. You didn't break. You didn't burn out. You didn't lack discipline. You overdosed on a medicine that never printed the dosage limit, prescribed by people who profit from you never reaching enough, inside a framework that diagnoses your emptiness as a need for more of itself. The engine is brilliant, the engine is efficient, and the engine has no idea that the best hour you lived in the last 4 years was a Tuesday afternoon on a lake with David, catching nothing, saying nothing important, watching the water do the one thing no optimization system has ever learned to do, move without a destination and still arrive somewhere worth being. Don't tell me you're going to start optimizing less. That's the engine talking. Tell me what you're reclaiming. Drop it in the comments. The fishing trip. The novel at midnight. The phone call that goes 20 minutes too long. The floor and the coffee and the nothing. Name the human thing the engine consumed. Because the moment you name it, it stops being waste and starts being what it always was, the reason any of the optimization was worth doing in the first place. Subscribe if this landed somewhere the self-improvement books never reached. There's more coming. Not about how to optimize better, but about how to be a person again after the optimization did its job.